Sure. Shall we start? Good
Gloria,
evening, everyone.
or
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
yes, Gloria, clearly.
Can you? Yes. So, good evening, everybody. I'm really delighted this evening to have a very distinguished speaker for our ICWA IFS Association lecture series. And despite situations, is one that able together and also across various geographies and time zones. So I'm really very happy that we're able to continue with the IFS Association lecture series, and extremely also delighted to welcome our speaker, Miss Nivruti Rai. Thank you very much for joining us today. And
Thank you.
we're really excited. We're really excited to hear about this and proud that a woman is leading such an organization that where I think usually one feels that this is the territory of men. So we're really proud to interact with you today and have you as a speaker. And I don't want to take much time, and hence I'll give the floor now to our moderator, Mr. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Gloria. Thank you very much. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We have about 30 people who have joined in. So that's the number, as I said, with which we usually begin. And it will go up during the day as we go. So when I was in college, or just around the time I think I joined the service, I heard this phrase that only the paranoid survive. And I heard about Moore's law. So these are two of the I think two concepts which I associate with the modern age. Gloria says she can't hear me. Can everybody else hear me?
Yes, Anupam, we can hear you.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Okay, all right. So, okay, all right, thanks. So this only the paranoid survive and Moore's law are two of the sort of defining concepts of our age. We live in the age of computing. This is a time when we think of computing as Netflix and Google and so on, but people forget sometimes that the basis of computing is the processor, and it's Intel, it's processing that computing is all about. And Intel is the company that has taken processing to levels where it could fuel the computer age that we live in. So this is we are very much looking forward to what the head of Intel India, Nivruti Rai, is going to tell us. As I was speaking to her when before the session began, she joined Intel at around the same time that I joined the Foreign Service. And I think that it would be very interesting to hear from you what the changes that happened in these last 3 decades. For us as diplomats, technology is geotechnology, which is the application of technology to diplomacy, is I think the area in which we will do more and more work in the years to come. The age of geopolitics was there. The age of geoeconomics is right now, and this will be succeeded by the age of geotechnology, or unless it's already there. At the recently concluded Raisina dialogue, we had this huge conversation about technology. And so there is nobody better than you to tell us about it, Nivruti. Our speaker today is the head of Intel India and a vice president in Intel worldwide. She is a person with incredible credentials in technology. She has patents in the US. I was noticing that she worked on something which allows you to basically, I think, detect where your chip is from, or IP addresses and that kind of thing. Then you worked on conserving chip power, and that's what your CV says. Using code. So these are really the nuts and bolts of technology. Ultimately, it's that what drives the change that we see. And now you run a business. You run Intel's entire operations in India. You have global responsibilities in Intel. So you're not just an engineer, you're a top manager. So you're a top manager who studied in Lucknow. I can see that you did a BSc in statistics, and then you went on to Oregon State and to Rensselaer. So a highly educated person with patents, the management experience in one of the world's most exciting companies, and one of the companies that has made the modern age. So we are extremely eager to hear from you about whatever you have to say. The format that we follow, as we explained to you earlier, is we are at your disposal for as long as you would like us to speak. At the end of it, we open the floor for Q&A, and I can see that there are a large number of younger officers whose life in the service will far exceed mine. So I'm sure they have a lot of questions. Thank you, Nivruti. Thank you again for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anupam. I must tell you that I felt quite overwhelmed and honored with your introduction. More so because being an IFS officer, you're talking about error correcting codes, you're talking about all the details of power consumptions. I'm very impressed that you read that detail on me. Before I start, I must tell you, I really truly feel honored working for Intel. For the very reason that, like Anupam said, that everybody knows about Netflix, Amazon, Google, but the reality is that if Intel was not providing the cloud servers or the devices for network, none of these companies would have happened. So just to give you some statistic, because Anupam encouraged me to do so, in the world today, 81% laptops and desktops have Intel chips inside. More in the server where you have cloud or 5G or 4G or any kind of connectivity, storage. 93% of the world servers are Intel chips. So honestly, if we were not providing these solutions, none of the applications would have been built. The second thing I want to say before I start my presentation is, again, a question that Anupam had posed during the introduction, that what has changed? Let me tell you something. In the year 2000, which is 20 some years ago, to do 1 teraflops of compute, meaning 1 million instructions, and instructions could be anything like add or subtract or display. 1 million instructions, which is teraflops, would require $50 million to spend. And why is 1 teraflop important? To do one person's genome sequencing, you would need about a teraflop of instruction. And for that teraflop, you'd pay $50 million in the year 2000. And I'm happy to tell you, with all the technology advancements today, you can do 1 teraflop of compute with $100. Some of your really smart phones can do it, forget about the servers. So that's the amount of change. $50 million to $100 in 20 years has happened because the transistors have scaled. Moore's law is what Anupam talked about. It allows you to double the number of devices sitting on any chip every 2 years. And those devices, the smallest are the transistors. And very simplest way to explain transistors is you allow current to go through or stop the current. And with the allowing and the stopping creates those digital numbers like 0 and 1, the binary, and that's what creates all these instructions to be happening. So that has what enabled a lot of the technology advancements that we see today. So really quickly, Ananta, if you can build my slide for my journey. I grew up in Lucknow. I went to Lucknow University, did my bachelor's. Back then, bachelor's was only 2 years. So I got married during that. And when I went to US, I was not considered a bachelor's. So I had to do bachelor's again and out of Rensselaer Polytechnic. That's where my husband was doing his PhD. So I did my master's. Then he got a job with Intel. I continued with him, went to Oregon State University and continued there. And then, tried to do my PhD, but I got my first child. So I did not finish my PhD from Columbia, but that's what my educational journey has been. In Intel, I have spent half of my life, which is about 14 and a half years, doing only technical development. So I was following what Intel calls a technical career path. I have worked on CPU development. I have worked, CPU is the brains of your any compute, laptops, etc. And then I have also worked on analog and digital IPs, for example, like USB, for example, like graphics, etc. So I've done in Intel almost full circle. I have done design. I have been part of the research where you build those devices. And then now business unit where I leverage the technology and try to make products. And that's the role I took in India. So 14 years I spent in US doing purely technical work. Then I moved to India with my husband for our family needs. And I started doing a lot of management, but I kept my technical part alive because I realized that Intel India, with my employees, I earned a lot of respect if I was able to understand what they were doing. And, it created a wonderful experience for me. So just quickly going through this slide, I have done almost everything, whether platform development, CPU, chipset, graphics, display, putting the whole system together, adding software, getting the whole laptop or desktop or server ready. I've done that. The interesting thing is, because I was so technical, before me, there were people who were leading Intel India. Their role was primarily managing. And it was very different. So when I was offered the role, I said, I cannot be purely managing logistics, government relations, finance, legal. I do want a technical ownership that I'm responsible for. So I was the first country president in Intel India who has two roles. I am the country head as well as I have my own engineering responsibility. So in this responsibility, I've actually worked a lot with industry partners, with academicians, as well as government. Few of the things that I would like to call out is I've spent a lot of energy trying to do research, entrepreneurial, growth, as well as skilling and training in AI. And why AI? Because as my engineering role, before I got into the manufacturing part, I was in IP development for Intel. And me and my team actually built an AI engine out of India for Intel. So that was a very exciting moment for us. So we are all very passionate in Intel India about AI. And one time there was a meeting between my CEO and my last CEO and the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister said, why should we look at Intel for AI? There is, the IBMs, there are the other companies. So the only one answer that my CEO gave, that nobody in India, whether, whichever company you can think of, are actually building AI engines for their entire corporation other than Intel India. So, with that kind of a passion, that kind of an interest, we have done a lot of work in AI. We're also looking at infrastructure support for 5G. I'm personally very passionate about this one project that we are doing for enabling data in villages. As we all know that we do have fiber optics laid till gram panchayats, but to villages we don't have connectivity. People use hotspots, but that kind of data is not sufficient for human-centric AI values like education, or human-centric AI values like healthcare, or even e-retail. So we started looking at rural connectivity, where recently we just did a demonstration in a small village called Moana in Haryana, where we are showing tele-education, teleconsultation, as well as e-retail. Healthcare and smart mobility have been our critical focus with AI or any other technology that we are working towards. We have engaged with startup research. I will tell you a little bit more. Another exciting thing that I want to share a little bit more detail is we have enabled 500,000 students in India with AI. 200,000 have received certification from us. And we also did a sort of competition where we trained the maximum number of youth, not just children, in AI. And as a result, we got a Guinness mention in the Guinness record. So the intent is AI can be valued. AI can generate human-centric value as well as economic value if our people understand and people leverage. And therefore, it has been almost like a drive that we are doing to try and enable as many people on AI. So the whole goal that I've been working with is how can I create value for Intel and how can I create value for India? Because we are Intel India. I am holding hands with all my corporate and I'm holding hands with my country. And therefore, I feel what is the technology? How can I leverage Intel to maximize India? That's, my goal. In doing so, while India grows, Intel will automatically grow. The next thing is, oftentimes you hear so much about AI and it seems like such a complicated thing. It may be complicated when you start programming or building AI, but reality is, I will share with you, AI is nothing but a lot of analytics, a lot of programming, a lot of mathematics, and then using of all of that to create solutions. A little quote from Dr. Robert Noyce. Many of you have heard about him. He says that there was a time that we used to look at the brain and build a computer that, oh, there has got to be some memory, oh, there's got to be some short-term memory, long-term memory, there's got to be some processing, logic, this and that. And leveraging that, we build the computer. Now it's the reverse. We are looking at the brain to in more detail. In the past, there was like very high level brain understanding. Now we are looking at the details of the brain to build the computer. And later on, I'll show you what neural network is, how, the brain inspired learning is creating what is called deep learning, but that's where we are. I honestly believe that like today, we have so many of you joining from so many different countries. I assure you, each and every one of you uses the tool called Excel for your management, for whatever you do, either, for your work or even for your home. So I believe AI-like technology will become as pervasive as the use of Excel in our homes and at work. AI will be sitting as a capability to enable consumers. Recommendation engine, everybody has. The minute you start watching a movie on Netflix, and in these difficult pandemic times, I know we have all watched a lot of TV. And once you watch a movie, the recommendation engine based on AI works and says, hey, based on the movie that you just saw, Nivruti, here are the other movies you can see. Those are called recommendation engine. And consumer segment uses a lot of recommendation. You shop for certain things and it builds over time your shopping pattern and it starts suggesting. Health is another thing. In the past, the soonest we had built a vaccine was for mumps. It took us 4 years. I know with the technology, the genome sequencing that I talked about, the ability to do artificial intelligence to study the impact of this vaccine with the interaction of so many different DNAs that human beings offer, health is a big segment. And I really feel health is one segment that we need to push for more of technology advancement, such that we don't suffer that one doctor has to see more than hundreds of patients in India, as compared to other countries where there is 1:40, 1:15, and so on. Finance is another area AI will be very, very critical. For example, use of your credit card fraud detection can happen in bank. All of these defaulters and loan kind of issues can be addressed with AI. Retail, I already talked about. Government, governance, policies, regulations, AI will play a huge role. AI will require all of them as well. Energy, transport. We're doing a project and we have done a pilot in 4 states where using compute, and think of compute as the brain, and your eyes as cameras, and your hands and legs as some kind of sensors and lidars. With all of those solutions, we are looking at what is called a collision avoidance system. I'm less interested in autonomous driving here in India. I'm more interested in collision avoidance. And we are building a customized solution to avoid collisions on the road. Just to let you know that in India, in 1 hour, by the time we would have finished, and hopefully, pandemic has done this one good, but by the time 1 hour would have passed, 17 people would have died on Indian roads, and most of them youth and most of them men. So that is a very sad statistic. And if technology can save even one life, it's worthy of, deployment and adoption. Similarly, in industrial automation and many other sectors, like I said, almost everything that you can think of where data or intelligence can create value, AI will come to the use. AI does a lot of efficiency. I like to call it augmented intelligence. We all have our natural intelligence, but why should I use my natural intelligence for something that the machine can do? I will leave my intelligence for higher level things. All of the things that we would have to memorize, like the tables when we were younger, we don't need to do that. We don't need to memorize a lot of formulas when your machine can do it. Similarly, think of AI, things that are repetitive in nature, that don't need a lot of strategy, very tactical. AI should be doing it with a lot of efficiency. So just to play, this is a simple math equation, but it just tells you efficiency in a very nice way. If on a daily basis for a year, you increase your efficiency by 1% only, at the year end, the value you can create is almost 38. However, if on a day-to-day basis, you lose 1% efficiency, you can end up with almost nothing towards the end of the year. So that's the power of efficiency that we can get through artificial intelligence. And just remember that artificial intelligence will never replace natural intelligence. It will augment intelligence. There will be people who will be users of AI, and there'll be people who will be creators of AI. Now, creators of AI will be few, but the usage of AI will be done by a lot of us. Now, just to tell you, artificial intelligence is a big, broad umbrella. Anything that is done in an automated fashion and leverages logic and rationale, and we're calling it intelligence, is artificial intelligence, is AI. Now, a lot of people use machine learning, deep learning, brain-inspired learning as synonymous to AI, but it's very different. AI is a big umbrella, thinks of automation and logic. Machine learning, now I'll explain to you in a very simple way, and it's simple, but it is true. So a lot of us, many of you may not have, engineering as your background, but you have used Excel, you have done averages, and you have done some amount of curve fitting. So you remember an equation which said y equals mx plus c. M is the slope of the line, X is the variable, and C is the constant where the line starts from on the y-axis. And Y is something that we are trying to predict. And oftentimes, when we were in schools, we would say, oh, average height of 12-year-old boys is 5 feet, or average height of 12-year-old girls is 4 feet 8 inches, or something like that. So y equals mx plus c would be able to do that, and you would be able to calculate the height y by inputting the age and knowing what the c is. Now think of a large amount of data. Now think of not just a single variable, think of multiple variables. For example, let's talk about impact of a vaccine on us. Let's talk about the COVID vaccine. Now, COVID vaccine can impact us on several variables. What is our age? How healthy are we? What are our other symptoms? Do we have any comorbidities? What is our genome sequencing looking like? Now, this is a whole lot of variables. Imagine a multivariate equation, like I told you, defining the impact of vaccine, which is a vector y, and a matrix which tells mx plus c. So all the variables filled in tells you what the impact of the vaccine will be. That is what is called a model. So think of y equals mx plus c is a model. Now, you will hear two strong actions for doing any AI solution. One is training, the other is inferencing. So what is training? Training is taking the data, building the model. Inferencing is taking the model, predicting. So y equals to mx plus c is my model. I use this model, and y is the impact of vaccine on the person. I'll fill in all this. That is called inferencing. Now, this is what is called machine learning. Very simply, a lot of data, creating the model, inferring. Now, sometimes your inference could be wrong. You are trying to say something, but you did not account for the factor that this person is living in Nicaragua, and there the weather was this, or the food was this, or his pattern or behavior for taking medicines was this, and you did not account for that. As a result, my inference could be wrong. Now, what we try to do is we try to minimize mistakes by saying, oh, my model is 99.9% accurate. But what machine learning does is when you make a mistake, it goes and updates the model and it corrects. So it's automated learning that is happening. Now, deep learning is based on how our brain functions. Think of deep learning as a bunch of layers, and think of it like a neural network. One layer, second layer, third layer, fourth layer. And imagine you're inputting a picture of a cat. Now, how do you know a cat? Cat has a certain kind of ear, cat has a certain kind of face, body, and a long tail. Each of these could be layers. Yeah, my ear is a layer, my face is a layer. So data, a cat's picture is fed in, all these layers go through, and towards the end, you predict, is it a cat or not? So both of them use mathematics, both of them use statistics for prediction, but build a model and then use the model for inferencing. Thank you, Ananta, for going to this slide. I already started speaking about it, but you input a requirement like a cat's picture or a face, you build the model y equals mx plus c, here I'm calling fx, and then we are able to come up with the algorithm that predicts that this person is Arjun. Similarly, deep learning, I have a picture of Arjun and I have trained my machine on many pictures, and the minute we input this, it finds the nose, eyes, and matches. Oh, there was a picture of Arjun and this guy is Arjun. So that's how deep learning does. And if you can see in the deep learning picture down here, in the bottom of the slide, you see many layers. Each of those circles are some patterns that we have recognized, and we take the input, and we make them go through all these patterns and think of a tick mark. Yes, 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 no, no, no. And towards the end, if I get a 99.9% match of all of those, features that we have highlighted, we say, yes, this is Arjun. So that's what machine learning I explain, and deep learning. And oftentimes people who don't know use this synonymously, but really it's different in terms of how you compute and what you do. I think I'm going to skip this. This is again telling about training and inferencing. Now, a lot of us have been hearing about artificial intelligence, neural network for 50 some years. Why is it that now suddenly AI is becoming so critical and so important? Some of the clue I had already given you, that in the year 2000, you had to spend $50 million for 1 teraflop, and now you spend 100. That is what has happened. So based on that kind of compute, the ability for the machine to recognize an image has become almost as good as a human being. Similarly, speech recognition, it has become as good as humans, and slowly the error will continue reducing. There will be some times when your eye will have a limitation, but the machine will be able to recognize and see the details that our human eye is not seeing. Already we are seeing this. So all these breakthroughs, it's called convergence of technology. Compute is becoming so strong. Storage is becoming so strong. Now the battery prices, just for your information, in the last 5 years have reduced by more than 99%. That's how much information you can store now as compared to just 5 years ago. And by the way, in the year 2025, the world would have collected 175 zettabytes, and zetta has 21 zeros. And all of this data, imagine, has been collected over the last few years only. I would say 10. Before that, it was almost nothing as compared to what we have today. So that is what is happening. The computer is becoming smart. The technologies are coming together in convergence as enabling technologies like AI to create solutions for things that we have not been thinking. Now, this slide, I really like it because oftentimes people think that, oh, AI is going to take away my job. Let me explain to you. If you look at the bottom of this graph, where you see production deployment. Now, just see, let's say we are, for simplicity of explanation, let's say we are looking at coffee beans or wheat or rice, and we want to see, are there any defects in each one of them? What are the shapes? Are there any dots? And we want to segregate. So people think that, oh, if AI is going to do this, what will happen to the 100 some employees that I have deployed? But I'll tell you, in this entire process, whether it is defect detection for a chip microprocessor or defect detection for a car part, automobiles part, or even wheat or coffee, AI is only 10 to 15%. Rest is data collection, data annotation, processing, figuring out the analytics, figuring out where do I need this analytics to be deployed, and then creating the solution. AI, like I told you, has two parts, inference and training. In training, again, it's very labor intensive. My goal is, there are so many women who are laborers. When Gloria was introducing me, she said, hey, lovely to have a woman. I worry about the women who, are doing jobs in, for example, construction. They have tiny little stores somewhere in the village. What happens to those women when e-retail platforms come and, people will be buying more online and they may not have, their jobs? What I feel is, onus is on us to train those people in the other jobs that get created. For example, India has so much data, 1.3 billion people. Each one is a data factory. However, the use of that data is not as good as it can be because the data needs to be annotated, the data needs to be contextualized, and there needs to be a standard. If we are using health records, what Apollo Diagnostics calls a certain biomarker versus what somebody else may be same, but the underlying data is very, very different, and the underlying data is also very important. So we have to get our data in a clean format, needs to be annotated that this data is for, very simply, this data is a circle, which is a picture, which I see in a breast mammogram, and this gray circle means calcification. Similarly, all of those contextualization and annotation needs to be done on the tremendous amount of data that we have. So labeling data, loading data, augmenting data, experimenting, and now the complexity of the work is going on increasing. So people who are not educated can be leveraged for labeling, loading, augmenting, and then the high school 12th graders can do experimentation and so on. So I really feel skilling is going to be a very, very critical part to enable our country with the opportunity it has. I keep telling me and my husband are both technologists, and he talk often that, the countries in the future will be not measured for their wealth by the amount of oil they have, but by the amount of data, and the data that converted into electricity, or the data of the new oil, or whatever you can call it, the data being the gold or whatever. That country which has the ability to do all of this, the labeling, the loading, and creating value, is the one that will be leading. And I feel herein lies an opportunity for us, and all of us have the responsibility to make it happen. Now, AI depends a lot on data. Data, if, for example, you don't have sufficient data or sufficient variety, your autonomous vehicle can have an accident because 1 in a million event happens, which is, for example, in US. I was once driving in Oregon, and a mountain cat climbed over my car and crossed. So this incident has never happened in my life, but it happened that once. And if you don't have that kind of a variety and volume in your model building, then your autonomous program is going to fail. So what does India offer? India offers tremendous volume and tremendous variety. And I believe, therefore, it's the opportunity is with us to create value and to create solutions which are population scale, which impact not just the people of India, but for people of the world. So for humanity. And I think we have an opportunity to lead it and drive it. However, I must tell you that, when you look at data and when you look at programs, data and programs can become victims to bugs, to bias, to misrepresentation, and to malware, manipulation and malware. So to avoid all of this, you have to build frameworks, mathematical, technical, policy, and regulatory. If we are able to do that, then we have the population scale solutions ready, and then the world can see an addition of about 16 trillion by 2030 to the global economy. Some countries are calling for 14% GDP growth, countries like US by 2030. But countries like China are claiming that I will see 30% growth. And the rest of the world is saying 5%. Rest of the world, 5% includes India also, if we don't sharpen our pencils to write the future of tomorrow by preparing our data better for AI. Now, some of the analysis says that India could also increase about $1 trillion for their economy by 2035. So a lot of opportunity for us, but the preparedness has to begin now. And like I said, data and programs are, can suffer bugs, bias, and malware, as well as manipulation. Now, many people, everybody says AI. Every conference I go to, people talk about AI, AI, AI. And I can tell you that when I start a conversation, many of the people have read few words and they will say, they'll know, the buzzwords, but from application perspective, very little application. 60% or so people talk about it, but 12% are using it. And the ones using it are using it more for the recommendation engine, kind of like the Amazons or the Googles. When you do some searches, or when you shop, or when you watch a movie, those are the recommendation engines, not for the solutions that we are talking about yet. Now, I've already given you a lot of clues that I feel that India has an opportunity to become that AI nation, which will be leading and which will be called upon, not for oil, but for the data that India has and the valuable data. Not only do we have valuable data, I truly believe that we can leverage and create a talent pool that not only creates AI, but uses AI. Once we create and figure out the usage, we have to deploy those. We have to adopt those. And in the adoption, we have to look at, how can we drive research, building solutions that people need? How can we enable startups and then leverage all of those solutions for our use? All of this can only be done with the right policies. Otherwise, an AI algorithm can say, by looking at just technology company data, that women will not make good architects, because there are hardly any architect women in different companies, because technology companies don't have women. But that's not right. The women that they have may be amazing. So we have to look at policies. We have to look at, okay, if BMW is causing an accident, an autonomous vehicle, then who is to blame? Those are the kind of questions we have to answer, and make sure that technologies like these should not be used as, a weaponization kind of use. So policy will play a very, very critical role. India is based a lot on mobile driven economy. We have a lot of mobile penetration, lot of use of data. While US sells $10 per Gbps, we are doing it 25 cents, because we have created innovations and we have the reach where people are leveraging data. So Ananta, if you can build, I am running short of time. India is fast growing in terms of developers. So if you look at these three graphs, the first one is saying we have 1.5 million AI and ML developers and cloud programmers who are doing AI and ML. They are 20% of the world. If you look at analytics, we have grown by 400,000 analytics, people who are statisticians, people who are mathematicians, and then cloud developers also. So from 2018 to 20, just 2 years, we have almost doubled. And I will tell you, the next slide perhaps shows you I will come back to you, telling you how many people from the world perspective does India have. And that's a good number that we can work on. While India has a lot of data, phone-driven penetration, we are also driving a lot of startups, a lot of unicorns, and there are a lot of opportunities for people to build AI-based solutions. Ananta, can you go to the next slide? This is the one that I was waiting for. Very interesting analysis done by Gartner. If I can highlight a couple of them, the second table on the left side, share of AI expert talents. I'm so happy to see the three countries that were called out. US has about 16.5% AI resources. China has 9.5, India has 8.5. Not only there, but India is also called out in the global AI investments. Of course, our investment is much lower, but herein lies an opportunity to partner across the globe. I truly believe that if we partner across the globe, India has tremendous opportunity to offer that others may not be having. Today we have 8.5%, but if we start at skilling, reskilling our people for AI, ML, DL, we will very soon turn the 8 into the 16 in the next couple of years, is what I feel. And continue the investment in partnership and leverage other countries as well and come up with a solution by collaboration. So I feel India. So just one more thing that I must say, and this is not to say any country is good or bad. The countries are different. United States, a lot of data is owned by the big industries, the Googles, the Amazons, etc. If you look at China government is what is holding and driving. I think India, we have an opportunity to look at AI and leverage data for social good. Use the 1.3 billion people should be benefiting from the solutions that we build. And if we build a solution for our people in India, no stopping this solution to be used for the world. But keep the human-centric value and the social good in mind and build solution for the world. Ananta, if you can go to the next slide. Some of this I have already highlighted. Why AI in India? We have a lot of unstructured data, we have scale, we have efficiency, and we have that ability to drive the value democratization. With all these national level platforms, what has unified payment interface done? Enabled so many entrepreneurs, enabled so many unicorns. So we have the ability, and therefore I feel that it's our opportunity to take what is good for us and help build the solution. So my vision is annotate and cure data sets. Health and smart mobility is what I'm focusing on. Build an open and secure data exchange platforms that entrepreneurs, academicians, industries, government can leverage, and build foundational AI algorithms and tools that people can leverage. This requires a lot of robust data governance, privacy and security. We know that India is pushing for data localization. So how can I share data without moving the data or giving the value of the data? We have come up with technologies where we can give the juice of the data without giving the data. So all of that we have kept in mind. And the critical things, the building blocks, is education, training that we have already started. And the whole purpose is very much like, unified payment interface, etc. We want to create an AI platform. So what have we done so far? I've already talked. I'm just going to define that, we have trained 200,000 kids, plan to train 5,000 government employees this year. We have built a curriculum for the IS Academy that we are going to train, and building a program where we want to train the citizens. I believe 1 million in 1 year is what the goal is. We have an applied AI research center. We started independently as Intel, and then this last year, we partnered with government, PHFI, Public Health Foundation of India, and IIIT Hyderabad, and we are driving cutting-edge research. Again, focus healthcare and smart mobility. We are looking at encouraging startups. While India is a software nation, I really feel if we provide systems and solutions, I already talked about 91% servers are Intel, 893, 81% laptops. And so if we enable people with these kind of systems, which are the most expensive things, we will have system startups as well. And I already talked to you about the 4 pilots where we did 40 to 75% collision avoidance. And now we are going to implement in Maharashtra, Nagpur, and in Lucknow, UP, full scale, to see how we can show the accident reduction. That and few other things we are working on, Emerging Technology Center with ISB and few others. So our intent is, like I told you, that we have to skill people, we have to drive cutting edge research, we have to get entrepreneurs ready, and we have to drive adoption. So we are trying to cover the entire spectrum of what is required to make AI translate into solutions for our people. So why are we here? I really feel it is our opportunity, each and every one of us. If we have collaborative approach to solving this problem, we will be able to address everything that I talked about, like the bugs, the bias, the manipulation, and the malware, and come up with solutions that will be for humanity. Establish AI for global good. We, led by India, maximize existing assets and programs and have other countries partner with us. I briefly got a chance to speak to, government officials from Australia and Japan, and people were very excited because when they look at India, they do see their eyes kind of light up. I will tell you, I taught AI class in University of Tel Aviv in Israel and in Duke University in North Carolina, and everybody wanted me to tell them what's happening in India, because they know we are data rich. All it takes is for us to come together and create value, cross leverage data, technology, talent, and resources. And I really am looking out for especially you guys to have this partnership and build opportunities for India such that we can create the 1 trillion that analysts are calling out. So last year we had a summit called All.ai. We had many countries participate in it. This year we are trying to make it even bigger, and I'm inviting all of you to participate. I know people from Islamabad to Nicaragua and to all of these different countries. I don't know which all countries joined, but I really think we have Berkeley participating with us. We have Duke, we have Tel Aviv University, we have many people from Germany participating with us. But I am looking for your help, participation, such that we can define what are additional areas that we could work on together to solve problems and to create business opportunities for India. And my invitation to all of you. I think I'm done. If I have any questions that I could answer, I would love. I don't know how much time I have left. Ananta, can you tell me?
It's 6 Nivruti. I think we have time.
Okay, great. So Anupam, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Yes, I think there are questions coming in. There are, well, firstly, thank you very much for, I think, what might be one of the most interesting lectures that the IFS or presentations that the IFS.
Anupam, you're muted.
Sorry, I said for one of the most, what might just have been one of the most interesting lectures I've heard in an IFS association meeting. I don't recall in, I think I might just be amongst the senior most officers here. I don't recall this depth of technology being explained with such lucidity in the past. So I'd like to begin by thanking you, for what was a masterly presentation. Many of us are not from technical backgrounds, but the way you explained it, I think a lot of people would be able to would have understood many of the concepts that you explained. In your lecture, you moved from your personal journey to explaining the building blocks of artificial intelligence in a manner which I have to say is quite exceptional. And I think that can only come from, to explain things with such lucidity, lots of data plus model plus inferring, and then breaking it up into, taking to sort of labeling the data. All that is, it comes from the mastery over the subject. It is also it's also obvious that you have a social conscience, and that is very refreshing and very interesting for us to see how the conscience and the profit motive together can combine. For us as policy professionals, I think that's a very important lesson. I see that a lot of the action is happening outside government, and the last part of your presentation, which was about the opportunity that India has at this moment, in effect, to be a major player in the AI market, I think is something which is a lot of which has a lot of relevance for us. We look forward to working with you, and we've taken note of the AI consortium. Maybe we'll move something to that effect. Now, let me begin. Let me misuse my position as moderator to ask you the first two questions that I have. You gave very comprehensive statistics about the number of developers and the number of AI analysts, the guys who can do analytics and so on. So
Yes.
the question that I have for you is that I'll try to it's a question which I have to articulate, but do you think that one of the statistics that you gave is that the US will add a lot more to its GDP from artificial intelligence than we will add? I mean, the US economy is, in real terms, is 7 to 8 times our size. But I mean, where will this innovation come from in India? Is it the private sector? Is it universities? What are the opportunities that are, or what are the problems that we might have? What are, how can we miss the bus? Is my question, and what can we do to avoid it? So that's one part of it. The other question that I have, while others put in their question, is, there's this debate which goes on about AI good and AI bad, and it has, I think, Bill Gates says that AI could get out of control, whereas there are others who say that AI can, as you said, you obviously belong to the other camp. But my question to you would be, we are also security professionals.
Yes.
Okay. So what is the threat? What is a threat? What are the downsides to the AI revolution? These are my questions, and then you wanted to know where people are from. Let me read out. We have people from Guatemala, San Francisco, Manila, Tel Aviv, Tehran, Muscat, Peru, and we have our official spokesperson, Arindam, on our panel. He's a very busy person, so having him here means that we really appreciate your being here. We have the head of our Americas division and the head of our Europe West division amongst others who are listening to you. Over to you, Nivruti. Thank you again for a wonderful lecture.
Thank you. I'm truly honored, and I think this is a great opportunity for me to talk about it, because if you understand, then you'll be able to contribute better. So now the first thing is, who will need to work? It is going to be a joint effort from academicians who can come up with interesting algorithms, interesting models. Industries like Intel and many others who will be providing solutions, will be optimizing solutions for this one use case such that the results can be better. How are we going to create business? We are going to create business by looking at what is it that people will be leveraging and people will be finding value for. Like today, 5G and AI are not being fully used as business opportunities because people have not really thought. The investment required is so high that people have not been using. But let me just give you one example. I was just telling you, Anupam, before the meeting started, that we've done this rural connectivity. We've enabled data to go into villages. And with that data, we had somebody in Moana consulting with a heart specialist in Narayan Hridayalaya in Bangalore. And only if that person really needs to travel to another place to get the heart checkup is the ability of AI and connectivity. AI can enable robotic surgery from Sloan Kettering, New York, in Ghaziabad here in India. That's the ability of AI and 5G. So a lot of us have to work together to make this happen and create use cases where people will be willing to pay for. Just 1 second, my laptop is going to die. So I'll just turn. Yeah. Many such use cases. Everybody now, government will have to play a huge role to build that policy framework. And let me just tell you, when we think of natural intelligence, our own intelligence, do you think everybody uses natural intelligence for good? Yes, most of the people use for good, but there are still crooks, there are still pirates, there are still thieves, there are still, hackers who do wrong things. There are people who are stealing and doing all those kinds of things. How do you save that? How do you protect, our humanity interest? You protect by putting the legal framework. You protect by putting the police and defense framework. All of those frameworks are put, and that's why when natural intelligence, tries to do wrong things, we take care. Same thing we have to do with AI. I talked about bugs, bias, malware, and manipulation. Data can be manipulated. Somebody's identity can be stolen. Data can have, malware. Bug can be sent, and everybody's data can be wiped off. Pension information can be wiped off. All of that can happen. But we have to build technology and solutions such that these things don't happen. From the very beginning, in very hundreds of years ago, the innovations have happened and people have been complaining. And let me tell you a small example. When washing machines happened, there was a group of people, I think Luddites is what they were called. They would say, don't do innovation because people, it will spoil people. Women will stop working. Or let's not do coal because people will start wasting coal, So every time innovation comes, you have to look at how to use that innovation for the good and protect from the bad usage of that innovation. Every single technology used in the wrong way can create problems for us. Now we have to use our frameworks to protect AI to not create, those kind of usages like the weaponization, like the biases. All of those things can happen, but because there could be a misuse, we cannot avoid, saving our people. I talked about 17 deaths on the road. Anupam, if I will be able to deploy and show even 8 people were saved, it is going to be an amazing use of technology. And we are doing it with AI. Similarly, health. If we are able to save people that, are dying because of misdiagnosis, are dying because of lack of reach of, the ability of access to doctors, I really think this offsets, the ability and the effort that we have to put in to build the framework to not have AI do the wrong things, just like we are doing for our own intelligence. So our own intelligence is the one who's doing the wrong things using AI. We have to protect our people against that. And can we do it? Of course we can do it. For if we have a problem, we have a solution. The challenge to me is what are those problems? And slowly we are trying to find, simple problems like, data cannot be moved. India data we want to keep in India. Okay. How can we create innovation that we want to do, let's say with Israel? We figured out a federated learning platform where we can give, distribute the model rather than have the model together, feed the model in a distributed manner such that data doesn't have to go. In fact, the value of the data goes. So Challenges will be there. I am not denying, but I am saying that AI will create value for humanity. AI will improve the quality of lives of masses, and AI will create business opportunities. We have to gear ourselves towards it and protect from the misuse of all of the technologies. I think
Thank
I
you.
answered all the questions.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you very much. Very thought-provoking and actually very simply explained that the reference to Luddites is a very relevant one. As I predicted, there would be questions and there would be difficult questions. So the first question that I have is from our ambassador in Manila, Shambhu Kumaran, who's one of our most thoughtful officers. So his question is, there's a lot of debate about, we are diplomats, we are going to come back to geopolitics sooner or later.
Yes,
and Shambhu's,
yes.
There's a lot of debate about the coming technology competition or even conflict between US and China. What are your views? You said that the US model was driven by big tech firms, while China's model was state-driven. What are the prospects of a destructive contest between the two models? What can India do? How do we position ourselves in India? I think that's a very interesting question.
Yep, lovely question. I think there's huge amount of opportunity. And, like our Prime Minister is driving the discussions on Quad, these are large democracies. Democracies are, who am I talking to? You know better than me. For the people, solving people problems. So I really feel this is an opportunity for people who have similar views and similar vision to come together and leverage their strength. For example, Japan. I showed you the Gartner analysis that Japan has tremendous amount of patents filed on AI. US has a lot of resources. US has a lot of investment and people. But the amount of opportunity in terms of data we have. I understand GDPR, I understand data localization, but I tell you, we have such smart technologies. We have already addressed GDPR. We are already addressing privacy. We are already addressing, the ability to give data, value of data without giving data. So once we know the problem, we can solve it. And I really feel the opportunity for India is to partner with some of these countries and bring a piece of the pie. No longer is India in the begging bowl mode. Come give me something. We are not. We already have 8% resources. We are working to make it, double in the next few years. We have data, we have people, we have, a tremendous amount of problems and opportunities. I think we need to work with many of the countries who have similar vision to solve the problem for their people and provide a piece of the pie that we are missing. And collaboratively, we can drive the wonders. So for example, in the Quad, in the technology, the 5G is talked about, manufacturing is talked about, supply chain is talked about. How can, we build all of these with technologies like AI, with technologies like blockchain? So I think all we have to do is we talk about data. India is data rich, but our data is in a very poor state. How can we make the data that we have, polish it? It is gold, but we need to polish it, or it's diamond and we need to polish it to make it shine. That's what we have to do. And we have to come together and create that, opportunity that others will partner with us, and together we can drive. Yes, I really think there will be a US, there will be a China. I really think there will be many countries will come together with US, and there may be some, or China may be alone, or maybe some. So these two will be there, and opportunity of democratic views will lie with the group that is thinking for the people. And I think we are one of those nations, and we have large problems, we have large data, we have large scale of resources. That makes us very rich.
Thanks. So I think that was again very interesting. What you say is that this is a chance to exploit the data that we have for geopolitical advantage. And to answer Shambhu's question, I think what you're saying that yes, there will be two camps.
Yes.
Okay. So the next question is, I think, a takeoff on your previous answer on this is from Abu. I think he's in DC in Washington. So he asked about singularity, and my understanding of singularity is when the net stock of data, I think, overtakes the net stock of human intelligence. I think that's what is meant by singularity. So his question is about that. If you would like to add anything to what you have already said, guys, I think we have just space for one more question. I think we already have 5 or 6. There won't be time, so I'll just take 2 or 3 more questions. Okay, so that's one, and I'm going to ask another question with this. It's about it's about privacy. This is from Raghu Puri. He wants to know: is the Indian market ready for a GDPR-like regulation?
Okay, so the singularity question. There are different views. There are people who feel that machines would overtake. There will be people, like I said, who will create technology and use technology. The creators of technology, some people believe that machines will overtake even them. I don't believe so. I feel that we know the problem today. You are highlighting those problems. I assure you, the minute we know the problem, we start working on the solution. And I know that because we have the fear that the machines will take over, we will create solutions where the machines will be dictated and worked on by us, the creators of those technology. Just to give you, when I was a little girl, my grandfather would tell me so many stories of, kings and this and that. And there was this big guy who was so ultra powerful, but our king would be able to kill that big guy because the king came to know that the life of this big guy is sitting in a parrot. And you reach the parrot and you are able to defeat this big guy. So the big guy is the AI-like technology, but we will figure out a way to beat the machine, because we will be the one who will be creating the life of that machine in that parrot, which we can turn down. So I know the problem is there and we are already working on the solution. Now on privacy, are we ready to implement policies like GDPR? I think you are better equipped to answer that question. I will, as a technologist, you give me a policy and I'll figure out a solution, whether it is a GDPR or whether it is the residency of data in country, even if it is in a duplicate. With my understanding is today, as long as India data is also in India, India is okay. So I'm right now working with that solution in mind. But if whatever policy is implemented, we'll be able to work is a technology and solution that will enable that.
So, thank you. So this is a question from Nitin, and I think so. His question is, what does the connection between AI data mining and foreign policy? I suppose that boils down to data localization. I mean, and where your how you mine data. That's in and from what I gather from your comments, you favor the your views are similar to that of the government of India, that our data is ours.
See,
Yes,
I'll tell you, as a technologist,
yes.
I'll give you one example of why data localization is important for problems like, let's say a building is burning, a very large building is burning, or a city is in danger. If imagine that building's information is sitting somewhere else, very far, or even if it is Singapore, to get the data, even with the faster servers, it's going to take some time. And by the time, damage would have happened. So I don't want to give any view on what the government should do, but I know that there are problems that the country will face where if the data was local, it will be beneficial. And I, as a technologist, will be able to work on whichever data policy the government sets. I will have a solution for that. But I know that there are problems which will benefit from data being local.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, look, you work within you're a very senior person, so I don't want to put you in a position where you know, we don't want to pin you down, in other words. So that's a good answer. And
as a technologist, I told you that, burning building will benefit from the data being local. And there are many problems like that.
So there are two other questions that I'll ask together. And one is related to semiconductors. And I mean, this is it's obviously asked by a question by an engineer, Suman Shekhar. And I don't really understand it, but he's given a lot of details. But what I gather is that the semiconductor business or the processing business is changing very, very quickly. And what direction is this going to take? Is this something that how does your company react to the new developments, the new kinds of semiconductors like ARM conductors, or the kinds of processing that Google is doing? The second question, which I think is again asked by an engineer, by our newest from our newest batch, that's a 2020 batch, that's Himanshu. He wants to know, what he says is that in the innovation value chain, India, say for instance, ranks lower than Israel. So when you're designing the chips, the high-end IP is done in Israel, and it's a low-end designing that's done in India. So how do you react to that?
Oh, I wish you know the latest, so I'll tell you what the latest is. But answering the first question, yes, there are many architectures of microprocessors. There's an ARM architecture, there's an x86 architecture, there's a GPU. So all of that, are there. And Intel is very aware, and we have solutions that, we are building or we already have in multiple places. So there is a requirement where, one type of architecture may work better. So yes, we are aware, and yes, there is, an opportunity, and we have invested in multiple areas. But I think the biggest problem that maybe you are trying to ask is the world is actually seeing shortage of, silicon, especially last year. All of this digitization and pandemic even pushed it, created a big, huge shortage of silicon. And the manufacturing is becoming more and more critical. And Intel is looking at investing significant. So our CEO announced $20 billion investment in fabs that, we are building in Arizona. And similarly, they will be looking at other countries as well. Now, the second question, I forgot what was the
second question was about value chain in the innovation ecosystem.
Oh,
that
yes. Yes. Oh, my God. Yeah. So let me tell you, we are 20,000 employees, 10,000 Intel employees, and 10,000 partner employees. And this is after US, it is, Intel India, which is, the next largest. And gone are the days where we were handing, people are throwing small pieces of work and we were doing. We are actually driving. In my talk also, I told the Inference AI engine was ideated by me and my team, and we're building it for Intel. So no longer are we doing, the support kind of work. We are doing as advanced work, if not more, than US and Israel. We have architects, we are building solutions, and Intel has, by the way, invested about 7.2 billion in India up till now. So, and we are here to stay. We have our own labs. We don't build, our labs in rented facilities. Every facility we have is Intel owned. So we are here and we are invested and we are driving critical innovations. AI, I already told you. Similarly, 5G, similarly, blockchain. We're doing as complex work as Israel and US.
Oh, Thank you. I think that's a good answer. What you're saying is that we have moved up the value chain, and
Yes.
I saw that somewhere in your CV you said that
Yeah. This may be true,
you
Anupam,
led
10,
teams.
15 years ago.
Yeah, you led teams which are in multiple parts of the world. So I think it's today a global factory for the production
Yes.
of knowledge. So I have a question from Munu Mahawar, who's is that from? Yeah, he's our ambassador in Oman, and he says that, and it's a good question actually. He says that you mentioned that Indian data is in very poor state. Can you illustrate this point by giving one example where we had handled our data well and where we have not? And related to that, and that's the last question, is there any AI audit of Indian systems to a certain, which are the systems that would naturally benefit from AI infusion, but are yet oblivious to AI, thus performing suboptimally? That's from Ambassador G.V. Srinivas, our ambassador in Dakar, Senegal. So two ambassadors, one in Oman, one in Senegal, one asking you for an instance of where we have handled data well and where we have not, and the other asking you if there's a systematic audit to identify systems that could benefit from AI infusion but don't know about it. Thank you.
Okay, so let me answer the second question, Ambassador Srinivas's question, because I really like that one. I think in healthcare, we are not using technology as much. And for example, for diagnostics, let me tell you what we are working as Intel India, and we are enabling a lot of startups for diagnostics. You know, think of like Alibaba. When you go, you see, oh, you can buy bed sheets, and you can buy light bulbs, and you can buy, cell phones, all kinds of things. So similar, we are building a diagnostic marketplace. We are using AI and we are focusing on few diseases, for example, cancer, bone degeneration, and retinopathy. So we are inviting startups to build algorithms on detecting a lot of this. How can they detect? If we enable them with annotated contextualized data. So lots of breast cancer scans. And what we've done is we worked with many hospitals. And again, without the patient information, we have been able to create data that is now being leveraged by startups for example, breast cancer detection. And what I'm happy to tell you, in this cancer detection, we have reduced false negatives to almost zero. False negative means that, there was a cancer, but the doctor missed it and said no cancer. And it turned out, later when we could not save the patient. Similarly, bone degeneration. And we have seen that simple implementation can speed up the diagnostics tremendously. So I feel healthcare is one, and then I feel defense is another, where AI will be so beneficial and useful. For example, I'm not suggesting that this should happen, but I think India could leverage their defense resources much more judiciously if we had more AI-led solutions and leverage the resources in the right places. So I really feel health and their education and smart mobility, and there are many, but few come to my mind, and even energy. The second question was, where is data good, and where, some of the examples. So two things that I have looked at, in health, we're finding a little challenging that every hospital has its own way of creating data, and to build a data repository is difficult. But we have partnered with academicians and many institutes, and we were able to clean the data that we are leveraging. Now, the new data that we are generating, the smart mobility data, how are we generating that? Let's say we have 8,000 cars running in Karnataka and Telangana. And like I said, they have the processor like the mind, and they have like eyes and hands in terms of cameras and sensors. And they're capturing traffic data and understanding, oh, this is a car, oh, this is a light pole, oh, this is a dog, oh, this is a vendor, and moving. So when we are capturing new data, it's in perfect state. But when we are leveraging data which is existing, for example, health records, it needs a lot of cleaning. And we realize that if I look at health data, I would say 30% is not usable, but 70% can be cleaned and made it useful. I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't see a supplementary from Manu. Manu, I presume that the question's been answered. At least I understood the answer.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I think we are okay. There you are. I think we are at 90 minutes. So this is Manu. You want to say something? Go ahead.
No, Anupam, thank you. I just
Manu?
wanted to say thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to again misuse my position as moderator and ask you a last question.
Sure.
You know, you've just convinced us that Intel is an intellectual property generation powerhouse. You know, the US is the knowledge-driven economy, and US companies are, I think, are particularly good at generating IP in India. Now, the question that I have for you is, do you find Indian universities up to the sort of, are they as good as you? I'll ask I'll ask you that bluntly. In terms of generating IP, do you see any signs of that make you optimistic there? Are there do you have any ideas about how you can build an ecosystem with universities, and whether you see a role for us as the External Affairs Ministry in that? Thank you.
Okay. So do I see smart people? Absolutely. But where do I see problem? Let me tell you that over, I think, the last 10 years or so, China has overtaken us in number of international patents so much. While US grew from, let's say, 52,000 last 5 years, 52,000 patents to 55,000. So the growth was only 3,000. But China was almost like us in the year 2000, where I think we had 500-ish patents. I don't quote me exactly, but close to 500. And they have moved to 60, and we are at 2000. And I was thinking, why is it? We have met so many smart people, amazing ideas. I realized one thing, that when people file patents in India, the first response comes in 4 years. 4 years for the patent. First response comes in less than a year for US and Israel and some of these countries. And by the time 4 years have passed, many of those ideas become stale. They say for a patent, 2 years is when you can make the maximum money. So I have been so bothered about this, that what can we change? Can we come up with a consortium that the first response is made by a consortium, not just the government, because there are shortage of people? Can we pick different companies and academicians and work towards it? I think that is what is one change that I would like. And the other change that I would think is, when we file international patents, to have an ability for India to partner with let's say Japan, and co-file a patent which is a Japan and India patent, something like that. Could be an interesting opportunity for us to partner. But I think the logistics is where it hurts me and bothers me, that the first response comes so late.
Okay, thank you. I mean, look, I think if it's okay with you, there's one last question. Can I ask you that?
Of course.
It's from Devi Gopinath, who's at our Foreign Service Institute and trains our officers. So AI is being used to create deep fakes and build false narratives that poses security threats. What can we do to counter such AI-powered misinformation? Can fake news AI bots be countered by AI itself? The reason I asked you the question is I think it's probably one of the most relevant questions today.
Yes, yes. There is a technology called AI for AI. So, to detect all of these hacks that, people are working on, and a lot of innovation and, research is already happening, and people are working on what is called general AI. So general AI a lot of times is also leveraging AI for AI and detecting. And I also agree with you that the manipulation and malware are big security threats, and that is where multiple countries need to come together. I'm in fact in the process of making a proposal of what is called a trusted corridor. If you build a trusted corridor between two countries, any country, or multiple countries, then anything traveling in between these two countries through this trusted corridor cannot, it's basically as strong as one can imagine. So, and it will leverage a lot of technology, it will leverage a lot of software libraries to make this kind of thing happen. And blockchain is already there, but there are many other opportunities that we could leverage technology for to create this secure and trusted corridor. And anything between this trusted corridor is really secure and cannot be broken or breached.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I mean, so there are a couple of takeaways that I think that are important for us as an association for this. And on behalf of the association, while thanking you for a most interesting, most edifying lecture, a lecture that tells us what is possible. I think two things two things that you said are very, very striking. One is something which we don't always grasp in our work, that you give a technologist a problem and he'll or she will find a solution. That's
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the other is the fact that AI is that the good that AI will generate is such that
Yes.
yes, that you're basically being a Luddite if you are.
It far
yes.
supersedes, because it's for human good, societal good. So,
But as an Indian Foreign Service officer, what I will take away from this, other than of course, is the opportunity to meet. I understood why you have reached where you were in the course of the conversation today. It was really very impressive. But what I'll take away from it is your deep and abiding love for India.
yes.
And your obvious patriotism and your desire to see India great. I think that is an important takeaway for us. Thank you again very much. It was a pleasure for me. It was an honor for me to have this opportunity to moderate this conversation. And we look forward to remaining in touch. I would like to hand the floor back to Gloria, the Secretary of the Association, to close the proceedings. Thank you.
Gloria, we cannot hear you. At least I cannot.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Miss Nivruti Rai, thank you very much for taking your time off. I'm sure you're a very busy person, but so patiently answering all our questions, and that too in a manner in which someone like me who's not very conversant with technology and those kind of what would you call terminologies, etc. I think you made this presentation very, very interesting and very understandable, just like you're trying to make AI user friendly and and demystifying AI for us. So I really thank you for making this presentation extremely focused And at the same time, we're able to also understand the implications and, what work you're doing. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate you on your leadership of this organization in India. And we do, feel very proud that such an organization is being led. Again, I'm not a feminist, but really this is a matter of pride for us. I can see that Dr. Anupam Ray is laughing away, but really, thank you, and you're indeed very, very inspiring. Thank you very much for spending so much with us. And we hope that in future too, as AI develops, you will also find time to again, speak to us on the new developments in this area and other areas that you mentioned, like blockchain, 5G. I think it'll be very interesting to continue our discussions in this very fast emerging technology. So I'd also like to thank at this time our great moderator, and thank you so much as always. You've really made this an interesting interaction for us, and we really appreciate your role in bringing various speakers and facilitating this whole conversation with really the most relevant, let's say, areas in our work or even in our world. So thank you very much. And again, I would also take this opportunity to thank Mrs. Nutan Mahavar from the ICWA, who are the host of this meeting on their online platform. And I'd like to thank all the other office bearers of the Indian Foreign Service Association for having cooperated in all our efforts. And at this particular point in time, I want to also wish speedy recovery to many of our colleagues who are under the search of this COVID, who have contracted COVID. And we hope that they will be able to join us next time and in person as well. So I want to also utilize this opportunity to announce our upcoming event, which is being undertaken with the in collaboration with the High Commission of Ottawa, Indian High Commission in Ottawa. And this is happening on Monday. And it is to commemorate the 60th anniversary, death anniversary of one of perhaps our first martyrs of the service. He's Sri Sankara Pillai, and he was the 1948 batch of foreign service who was posted as first secretary in the High Commission of Ottawa, where he was killed while in office by a mentally deranged individual on April 19, 1961. He was perhaps, an inspiring, really inspiring figure for many people at that particular point in time to join the service. And stalwarts in our service like Mr. T.P. Srinivasan, etc., also were very inspired by him, and that's how they joined the service. And so I think please do take time off, colleagues, to join us in this event on Monday afternoon, again at around the same time. I will reconfirm the timing since Ottawa is also on a different time zone, and send you all the invitation. But let me again once more thank all of our participants today. We thank Ms. Nivruti Rai and also Ananta for having really coordinated so well with the presentation. And thank you. Thank all of you and wish you all a very safe and happy weekend.
So Gloria, if I may, I want to thank all of you. I know you are tremendously accomplished, where you are, what you have done. Despite that, so many of you came and asked me such good questions. I'd be really sad if there was no question. So when Anupam asked me if, I could spend more time, I loved it. because I think the value of a conversation happens when a dialogue happens, and I really appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. We are signing off. Bye-bye.